In just a moment will be Rabbi Jeffrey Weil and Cantor Daniel Gale of Ezra Habonim, the Niles Township Jewish congregation.
Maybe I'll do Kriya afterwards. I'll do it now. Yeah. For those of you who don't have a seat, there are some seats within the congregation. Is this on? Yeah. It's okay. For those of you who do not have a seat who are standing, and if the family has not looked back, it is standing room only in this chapel. But there are seats within the middle of these rows if anyone would like to find them and have a seat. We'll begin with the ancient act of Kriya. Kriya means tearing. The mourners, the direct mourners of Audrey Alvarado are wearing the Kriya ribbons. In the Bible, when something calamitous or shocking would happen, our biblical forebears would tear their garments, really exposing their wounded and vulnerable hearts. And in this blessing that the mourners will recite, those who are wearing the ribbons, in a moment it acknowledges God even at times of pain and sadness, and this is sometimes very difficult to do, of course, acknowledges God as the Dayan Ha'emet, the judge of truth. So I ask the family with the ribbons to please stand up, and we'll do the blessing for Kriya together. Adonai, ma adam v'teda ehu, ben enosh v'techashvehu. Adam leheveldama, yamav ketzel over, babochi yatzitz v'chalaf, la'erev, yimalel v'yavesh. Tashev enosh ad daka v'tomer, shuvu v'nei adam. These are the words of the psalmist saying, Adonai, eternal God, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we, any of us, that you would even be mindful of us? We are just a breath, our days a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning it shoots up and is renewed, and in the evening of all of our lives it fades and withers. But God, you cause all of us to return unto dust, saying, Shuvu b'nei Adam, return mortal ones. Would that we were wise, would that we understood whither we go from here, for when we die we carry nothing with us, not our riches or glory. But God, you say, Shmor tam urei yashar, mark the wholehearted, behold the upright. Those are the ones who shall find peace, who shall find shalom in the end. Friends, we gather today to remember and say a very sad goodbye to Audrey Beth Alvarado. She was wholehearted and she was upright. She was overflowing with life and she had a heart of love. Our scriptures have something to share with us, something to say that's relevant for all the times of our lives. At this time, we turn to the 23rd Psalm, which is in our handouts. We'll read it together first in English, and then Cantor Daniel Gale will chant it in Hebrew. The 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Cantor Gale.
Adonai roi lo echsor binot deshe yarbitzeni al mei menuchot Yanhaleni Nafshi shovev Yeshovev Yancheni b'maglei tzedek Yanecheni b'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam hilech begez al mavet lo ira ki ata imadi shivlecha jantecha hema yenachamuni ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorai dishanto vashemen kosi revaya ach tov vachesed nirdefuni kol yemei chayai ימי חיי. ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רואי לא אחסר. Adonai roi lo echsar. Friends, with the rabbi's permission, Rich, as you all may know, is a deeply beloved member of our community, and among one of the most faithful attendants of our services, you might say as well. And he expressed to Rabbi his wish for the Misha Berach prayer to be sung at this service. And most of us who are familiar with the Misha Berach, the words mean, may he who blessed. Most of us are familiar with this particular song in the context of healing. But something that Rabbi and I learned fairly recently, and which I'd like to share with you, is that this song, which has become a beloved part of our ritual, was originally written not as a song for healing for one who is well, but as a song of healing and comfort for a caregiver. And in this context, I know that Audrey and all of us would like to share our prayer of gratitude and blessing to Rich and his entire family, and those of you who knew and beloved and supported Audrey in this most difficult time, with the song Misha Berach by Debbie Friedman. And I would invite any of you who know this to join together and sing this song, this prayer. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor habracham leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach. Misha Berach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Singing runs in the family, so I'm pleased to know that Enzo is singing along too. La kolzman ve'et laho chefetz tachat hashemayim, et laleret ve'et lamut, et lata'at ve'et la'kor natua, et lifrot ve'et livnot, et livkot ve'et lishchok, et tzvod ve'et rekod. For everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot that which is planted, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve, a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time when we must refrain from our embraces, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time for silence and a time to speak. And so this is an appropriate time to speak words in honor of memory of Audrey Alvarado. There's a story that's familiar to you, likely one way or the other, from one source or another. This from the context of 2 Kings in the Bible, where the prophet Elisha was Elijah's student, and Elisha was a great prophet, a miracle worker. And it'll sound familiar. A crowd had gathered to follow and to listen to the prophet Elisha. This is in the 8th century before the Common Era. And Elisha's attendant, brought him 20 loaves of bread. But there was a massive crowd that had gathered. And he said to his attendant, "Give it to the people and let them eat." And the attendant said, "There are hundreds upon hundreds of people here. These 20 loaves will not feed all those people." And Elisha said again, "Give it to the people and let them eat. For thus said the Lord, they shall eat and they shall have some left over." So he set it before them, and when they had eaten, they had some left over, just as the Lord had said. This is the miracle of food that just keeps on coming. We take these stories for granted, as I said, because they're familiar, but can we really appreciate what is happening here? Can we imagine what spirit in the heart of the prophet Elisha gave rise to this miracle? What dwelled in his heart that allowed this food to multiply and to satiate so many people? What was Elisha wanting as the crowd stood before him? What was he feeling as that bread multiplied? It was love. It was an intense, overwhelming desire to satisfy others. It flowed from his heart of love. Some souls contain such abundant love within their hearts. Audrey Alvarado possessed such a soul. And when people, her people, which is like this great crowd here, gathered, she produced her own miracle of multiplying food. For when she baked and baked and baked and cooked, there was an overabundance of food. And it reflected her desire to be absolutely certain that everyone would receive what they wanted and that no one would want for anything. Her miracles of muffins and mandel bread, these were miracles not merely of flour and butter and sugar. It was her miracle of love. And so was her life, such a miracle. She was the oldest child of Bunny and Mo Cohen, older sister of the mighty trio, herself, Karen, and Nancy. As kids, the girls would run from one end of the hallway to the other. They would be singing and dancing and playing. Audrey, in their childhood homes, always had her own room. She was definitely, make no mistake, they were a trio, but she was the older sister. Yes, she certainly cared about her sister's welfare, both of them, but it was a kind of caring, at least as a child, associated with at least a dollop of bossiness at times. But they were good to each other, the three of them, this trio. They would gather in one of their rooms, all of them together, making sure that no one was left out. Audrey was also an expert, I don't know how else to put it, manipulator in a way, able to compel her sisters to do her bidding, like clean her room. And she would just sit there and point at a corner of her room, and the room would be cleaned. That's itself a miracle of sorts. Even more impressive were the massages. At least Karen would give Audrey a back massage that lasted the duration of an entire Bob Dylan album. And Audrey would just be listening, lying on the bed, I guess, with her headphones on, just listening the whole time. You were a good little sister. But that's like an extreme version of like primate grooming. But Audrey gave in return. When she took this cake decorating class, certainly a harbinger of things to come, she took a cake decorating class. The cake came home, and everyone enjoyed it. And certainly those kinds of sweets, baked goods, good stuff, a major motif of Audrey's life and for the family. Like before they would head out to the movies, Audrey would pack little baggies of sweets, candies. It was certainly a childhood of happiness, surrounded by cousins, aunts, and uncles, and so forth. After she graduated from Niles East, Audrey attended Northern Illinois University for a while, and when her friends would head out to concerts, even though she loved her music, and that soundtrack before this service began is an awesome, awesome soundtrack that we heard. But Audrey would just, instead of going to the concert, just go out and get a cinnamon roll. And then she came back and she entered the world of work, very, very varied work experiences. Her experience early on in the housewares department of Marshall Fields here in Old Orchard was sort of a gainful employment in that she used her paycheck to gain a lot of housewares that she may or may not have needed. And she'd go on to lots of other jobs, waitressing at Arby's, working at Lincolnwood Bank, Continental Food Services, Goldberg Cohen, the law firm for many years, American Family Insurance, Fifth Third Bank, more likely, perhaps, as well. One Memorial Day, 1987, she accompanied her friend Kathy to a barbecue. Somehow, they ended up on the back of two men's motorcycles. Kathy on, I believe, Jose's, and Audrey behind a stranger she had just met named Rich. They zoomed down Lakeshore Drive, got a bite, I guess it was a bite to eat, at Pippin's, and they zoomed back fast up Lakeshore Drive. Audrey's well-known cautiousness had not yet fully blossomed, obviously, by that point. But it must have been a good impromptu date. Their first proper date was catching La Bamba at Eden's Plaza. And for the second date, La Bamba is a nice first date, but the second date that Audrey managed to create was pretty impressive. She was able to score tickets to a Bruce Springsteen concert. That's a pretty serious second date. A short time later, in August, Rich's birthday, Audrey put together a 30th birthday party for him. That itself shows a very generous, giving spirit. So the summer of '87 auspiciously began and concluded with parties for this couple. During their dating time, their courtship, Audrey would occasionally say that she was not sure she wanted to be a mother. Boy, did that change. A year after they married, really right at this time of year, really this week upcoming, Sally entered their world. Her arrival brought out from Audrey even greater measures of her warmth and her light, which she, of course, shared with her daughter and with the rest of the world. It was like an increasing light. She confidently, lovingly guided her daughter through childhood and into adulthood. They were not strict parents, Audrey and Rich. There was no need. They didn't have to be strict. Audrey was solicitous of Sally's interests and desires. She figured wisely that Sally could try out any activity really that she wanted to, anything that piqued her interests. If it wasn't for her, she could stop it, she could end it, and simply go on to the next thing. She understood, truly with wisdom, that Sally would settle upon her passion, which of course is exactly what happened. Most importantly, the two of them, Rich and Audrey, raised Sally to become an adult who, like them, is just a good, kind person, and there is no accomplishment more important or significant. With motherhood also came Audrey's, as I mentioned, her protectiveness. No more riding on the back of motorcycles with strangers. In fact, forget about motorcycles, even just motors were a problem, concerning. They were once on a boat, and she thought the boat was moving dangerously fast, but it wasn't even moving. No motor was on at all. It was just rocking in the breeze. But truly, her protectiveness, which I've heard a lot about the last couple days, was really her desire to shelter, to provide shelter, reflecting her innermost want, desire in this unpredictable world to keep loved ones safe and sound. And so many dwelled within Audrey Alvarado's canopy, shelter. Human beings and animals, including their pets like Wesley, and now Maya at midnight, those kitty cats, and the school pets that Sally would bring home that they would care for over the course of summers. To Sally's friends, Audrey was just like everyone's mother, everyone's mom. And all of her caring, all of her concern, her love for so many, but its core, its origin, its focus was foremost on the family. Karen and Mike, Nancy and Bill, Stephen, Heike and Enzo, Taylor, Bobby, Levi, and Zach. And by the way, Stephen and Taylor and Sally, the three sisters, three children, are more like sisters and cousins, another trio in the next generation. And of course, Richie Jr., Timothy, Crystal, Cody, Nick, Lincoln, and Layla, and Jonathan. Everyone, and more too, I'm sure. Everyone within her near orbit and in her broader orbit felt the love that this woman brought to the world, the love and the life, and tasted her baked goods for any occasion or simply no occasion, all to make your days, sing it, kids, preach it, all to make your days sweet, sweeter. And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. Audrey gave abundant love, far more than most of us. And she received love in return. Friend Gail deserves special mention, a tireless advocate for Audrey. It was, as we know, a tough illness, last 13 years. But during her final moments in this world, Audrey Alvarado was surrounded by loved ones, holding hands, including just a couple days ago, 10-month-old Enzo's little hand, receiving your hugs, your caresses, and your kisses. And in the end, the love she shared returned to her. All the love that she multiplied, like loaves of bread for you, you shared, you gave it back in turn to her. And there's really no greater blessing. May Audrey Alvarado's memory always be for blessing. Zichrona livracha. Amen. Pleased to call forward sisters Karen and Nancy.
We'll make ourselves fit on here together. Thank God I lost 4 pounds. Am I going first? Yes. Okay. When I look out and I see, okay, I can do this. How many people are here and the room is filled and people standing, it just warms my heart. I did write a few things down. So as we were getting closer and knowing Audrey was coming closer to this part of her life, we knew this was something that we wanted to start working on. You know, her memories, our memories, you know, just what came to our mind. We started jotting things down, and then we kind of let it go for a while because everything was going well, and we were just like, okay. So then she was in the hospital for a week, came home, had a couple days, and then we were like, oh my gosh, we have to do this. So Nancy and I thought this would be easy to come up here and tell everybody all the amazing things you would say in a eulogy. Of course it would be easy because it was Audrey. We knew we wanted to share everything about her that we possibly could. So our parents passed rather early in our lives. The three of us used to joke, who would be next? Hi. Who would be next? We each would say we wanted it to be ourselves because none of us wanted to be without the other. We were referred to as the Cohen girls, one for all and all for one, together forever, and that's just the way it would be. When the rabbi came to the house upon Audrey's peaceful passing, he asked us to share a few things about Audrey. We rambled on and on, sharing stories about our youth, her amazing skills in the kitchen, her love for licorice, and more. And the rabbi captured her so well in everything he said, so thank you for that. We also met at the funeral home, and they suggested we take some time and write an obituary from our heart. With that, we turned to our good friend Maureen for help with that. Maureen, like the rabbi, captured everything about Audrey's beautiful life in a few short paragraphs. It's an amazing legacy, and we are forever grateful for her words. And I know you're out here somewhere, so that goes to you. Now it was time for Nancy and I to share our memories. That's what you do in a eulogy. I looked it up on Google. We sat with pen and paper soon after our time with the rabbi, with tears in our eyes, ready to write, and nothing came out. A few hours later, we tried again. We knew we had to get started because there was so much to say and no words again. We tried on the phone that evening, and again, we had no words. We had to do this. We wanted to do this. Yesterday, we were ready. We sat in Nancy's kitchen sharing an apple with a little peanut butter because that's all Nancy had to offer me during my time of grief. I thought if I was sitting here with Audrey, I would at least have some mandel bread, a cookie, a muffin, some ice cream. She would know how to comfort me during this time. She knew that would help me concentrate on the task at hand. And eventually, over this apple, we started sharing memories, laughing as if the three of us were sitting here together, as we had so many times before. We were ready to put our words on paper, and again, Nancy and I stared at each other. Nothing on the paper. We decided to let it go and try later. There were other things to do. Well, here it is, 3 a.m. this morning, pen in hand, and I hear Audrey yelling at me. Yes, yelling. You knew this was coming. Why aren't you more prepared? Just write something, and don't turn it into a poem or make it cutesy. Do you want me to do it for you? And with that, I thought, I wanted you to do it for me, because how am I supposed to go on without you? Then I opened my iPad to try to put my scratchy pieces of notes together a little bit more organized. I opened an app I found that said Notes, which I didn't even remember I had. And there on this page, when I opened it up, were just sitting there the word sisters, dated June 6th, 2020. And then I kind of had a calmness and said, it will be okay. And actually, for all of you who might want to see it, I was able to print it. It just says sisters. I don't know what I was writing. I don't know why I was writing it. Almost exactly 3 years ago to the date. And I thought, wow, I couldn't believe that. And then I knew that it was okay. Everyone here today has a memory of Audrey that they will hold forever in their hearts. Nancy and I will forever be a sister of three, and I know Audrey will continue to guide us in everything we do. because that's just what big sisters do. Audrey, I love you. Thank you for making the world a better place for everybody involved. And I also want to share one other story. So this morning, those of you who know me, I don't wear much jewelry. So I get some jewelry and I put it away. So I said, you know what, I should wear a necklace today. I'll just go grab a necklace. And when I went to a box that I had jewelry in, I saw this necklace. And it was still in its sealed package. And I had never taken it out. And I'm not sure who gave it to me, so if you're here and you gave it to me, I apologize. But it had a little card, and it said, "Sisters are like stars. You can't always see them. Great to know they're always there." And it said, "How lucky to have sisters." And today is the first time that I've ever taken it out of the package, and I have worn this. So thank you. If it was you or Audrey or Stacy maybe, because Stacy's would probably do something like that. And Stacy's our friends, were like sisters to us, and we are forever grateful for that. And we're thankful for the love of our family and Sally and Rich and our kids and everyone. Did you kick me?
No.
I thought it's like the awards. It's time for me to stop.
Okay.
So anyway, thank you all. And now we're going to let Nancy share some of her memories.
Okay. As I sat outside last night, feeling sorry for myself and how much I miss Aud, I realized how grateful I am. I have the most amazing sisters. As I sat with this stupid grin on my face, tears running down my cheeks, memories came flooding back to me. Sure, as little girls, we laughed, we danced, we pushed, we pinched, we'd bite, but by the end of the night, we'd be sitting side by side, elbow to elbow, knee to knee. As teenagers, we spent most of our times with our friends, but when we all ended up at home at night, you would find us sitting side by side, elbow to elbow, knee to knee. When Aud returned from college, the three of us became even closer. So close that we no longer sat side by side, elbow to elbow, knee to knee. We pushed two beds together and slept in one bed, side by side, elbow to elbow, knee to knee. As I watched Audrey going through this journey, it always amazed me how positive she was. I remember reading through one of her trials she was on, which she will go down in history as the first person to receive the treatment. I looked up into her beautiful eyes, and she knew exactly what I was thinking. She said, "Nance, it's not for me. It's for the benefit and the future of others' lives." Audrey fought the fight hard, not only for herself, but for others as well. That's who she was, and that's who she'll always be to me. She will always be the top square of our 3-scoop sherbet ice cream cone we share from Cock Robin's. Our dad used to say, you needed to stick together by licking from the bottom up because opposite, the top down, otherwise it's gonna fall apart. I love you, Aud. I'm sorry it's you. Thank you all for being here. I love you, Karen.
I love you, Nan.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Enzo, you can speak.
Thank you both so much. Please to call forward Sally.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I'm not going to look at you or I'm going to start crying again. Okay, I'm just going to read from the page. So, my mom never wanted me to worry. She always said that everything will work out. And we would often do a jig, as she called it, whenever we hoped for something to come true. For anyone who wants to learn the Audrey jig, this is it. Face your partner, put one leg around the leg of your partner, and use your arms to embrace each other. Jump synchronously around in a circle until your shared laughter makes you fall or makes you feel like you might pee your pants. She made me do it every time I came home from college or was going to leave for college, whenever I had an audition or a test, or my driving test, or anything in the world. We did a jig. Aside from a jig, I know that my mom also turned to prayer in times of need. She especially loved to hear the Misha Berach, which we were so lucky to hear today, and I was able to sing to her recently when we were having snuggle time together. My mom didn't only rely on fate to get what she wanted. She was a true go-getter. When I was very young and I left my teddy bear Sherbert at a restaurant, my mom wouldn't leave him behind. She called the restaurant, told them to put Sherbert in a bag outside the door when it was raining, and she went and rescued him in the middle of the night. I thought it was the middle of the night. It was probably 8 o'clock. She made sure that she could make it to every performance I ever had, which meant that she had to recruit a driver, usually Karen or Nancy, to bring her up to Appleton, Wisconsin, when I was in school. She was so excited when I moved to Milwaukee because she could take the train up every weekend to visit me during my first year teaching. I would pick her up from the train station and we would give each other the biggest hug. Speaking of which, teaching, I found out yesterday that my mom had actually been studying education during her couple years of college, which I had never known before. So my mom always said that she didn't know where I got my brains or talents from, but it turns out it's always been from her. One of her many talents, you too, Dad, you're smart. I get my looks from you. One of her many talents, as you all know, is baking. And my dad and my personal favorites were always her mandel bread, flop cake, also known as a normal coffee cake, and banana bread, which we made sure to bake together over the past few months. So don't worry, everyone, I can do it. I think the kitchen was probably one of her favorite places to be. My mom was an artist in the kitchen, and every artist needs the right supplies. Growing up, we would spend hours in the basement of Macy's in the kitchen department, and we would bring home all different items and appliances. The Betty Crocker bacon fill when I had my ice cream cake phase, my snow cone machine when I was very little after our favorite snow cone place on Main Street closed, the Yonana's maker, just to name a few. We had a lot of fun in the kitchen, and we especially enjoyed teaming up to bake cakes, where my mom was the baker and I was the decorator. She also taught me that grocery lists are really just meant as a reminder or a recommendation, and it's okay to peruse every aisle of the grocery store as if being in a museum of fine art. Which is still how I prefer to do my grocery shopping. Sorry, Jonathan. My mom was very generous and shared everything with me. By the end of high school, we were the same clothing and shoe size, and I would frequently borrow outfits from her closet. If she brought home something new from the store, she would always ask, "Do you like this? Do you want it? You should have it." So she really never had many new clothes because I always ended up taking them. My mom was also very generous when it came to my friends. When I had company over, my mom made sure that we were never hungry. When a friend needed a place to stay for the night or a week or a month or a year, there was always room at our house, and my mom was everyone's mom. She also never hesitated to take in a furry friend, whether the owner was going on vacation or renovating a house. Some of our former guests, to name a few, were Licorice, Jasper, Jacob Crane, and Cooper. My mom also took the best care of our own cats, Samantha, Melissa, Gigi, Maya, and Midnight, and our beloved Wesley. There's so much more that I could say. My mom will always be the most beautiful woman in the world in my eyes, and I'm the luckiest to keep her in my heart and have her guiding me in spirit. And there's one poem that I want to share that actually, I saw it a couple days ago just randomly on the internet. I had never heard it before, but I think it's perfect, especially as everyone continues to share all of these memories. This poem is by Jasmine Mans, and it's called "Speak to Me of My Mother. Who was she? Tell me about the girl my mother was before she traded in all her girl to be my mother. What did she smell like? How many friends did she have before she had no room? Before I took up so much space in her prayers, who did she pray for? Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Sally. Leda hireshit uftirat tachlit hachayim kamasahem kalicha tzmicha mishalav l'shalav. Birth is a beginning, death a destination, and life is a journey, a going and a growing from stage to stage. And that life journey of Audrey Alvarado has reached its sad conclusion. Adonai Natan, v'Adonai Lakach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevorach. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Blessed be the name of the eternal God. And so, O God, into your care we entrust the spirit of Audrey Alvarado. For you keep faith with your children in death and in life. Sustain all of us, O God, that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead for us, so that when we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you, O God, will be with us, a loving friend in whom we put our trusts. You are the light of our lives and our hope in eternity. If it's comfortable for you to do so, we now please rise for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence with the holy and the pure who shine like the glow of the heavens. To Audrey Beth Alvarado, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence and within the shadow of your wings. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of life everlasting. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. Amen. Cantor Gale.
Hail, Malei Rachamim, Shochein B'meromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechuvona Tachat Kanefei Hashechina B'mahalot Kedoshim B'mahalot Kedoshim Kedoshim Utehorim Kezohar Harakia Mazehirim Het Nishmat Audrey Beth Alvarado, Chanya Basha, Bat Myron HaKohen Veheriet, Shehalacho Leolamo. Began Eden Tehei Menuchatam Nabohu al Harachamim הסתירה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, תנוח בשלום למשכבה. ונאמר אמן.
Please be seated.
Friends, this concludes our service here in the chapel. Interment will take place immediately at the family plots at Shalom Memorial Park in Arlington Heights. Following the interment, the family will be sitting Shiva at the Saputo residence, that's 4420 Wilmette Avenue in Rolling Meadows, until 9 p.m. this evening, and tomorrow from 4 p.m. until 9 p.m. here at the chapel. Memorial contributions could be made to the Headstrong Voices for Healing, 9444 Costner Avenue in Skokie, and that electronic address is also present on your folder. For those of you who are online, please note that that information is available on our website. For those of you who are going to be going with the family today in procession, please make sure you obtain an orange funeral safety sticker, which is going to go into your left side passenger side window. The stickers will be placed, and I would also ask that you please have your bright headlights and hazard lights on at all times. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing magnetic flags throughout the procession. As we drive in procession today, please stay as close as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you. This is especially important as we go through intersections. We do not want to create any gaps. I'm going to ask everyone to please rise as the family, Mrs. Alvarado, are escorted from the chapel along with the clergy.